It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're wrapping up 1991. We're looking at the weekend of December 27th, 1991, and we have 9 movies to look at, so it's going to be a big one today. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right on into it, and let's start with the first movie that we have here, the biggest new release of the weekend, and that was Barbra Streisand's directorial effort in which she co-stars with Nick Nolte, and that is The Prince of Tides. So this was arguably Barbra Streisand's most successful movie as a director. This was the second of 3 films she directed. She directed Yentl in 1983, and then 5 years later she would direct herself and Jeff Bridges in The Mirror Has Two Faces. But this was the most successful one because not only was it a huge hit financially, it was a big hit critically, but it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and unfortunately didn't receive any of them. But she didn't even get a nomination for Best Director. But you know how the Academy Awards and the Directors Guild are when it comes to nominating women directors. They used to not do it as much, but nowadays they'll do it. So I don't know. Maybe she was a little bit too late on that one, but no, really, the Directors Guild, actually, just the Academy Awards in general, is so broken and messed up that that's a whole other subject altogether. But this movie did have a legacy to it. In fact, so much so that as of this recording date, August 31st, Apple TV Plus is currently working on a TV series adaptation of this, so the legacy of this movie is well known. As far as the movie itself goes, it's alright. I mean, I don't think it's anything spectacular, I don't think it's anything too amazing or groundbreaking, but it does have a lot of Oscar bait-ish type of things in there. It's like if you've seen most Oscar bait movies, you'll definitely check the cliches and all that are in this particular film. What the heck was I even saying? Let me try to rephrase that again. If you've seen most Oscar bait type of movies, you can definitely see the cliches in here. There's a lot of those in here, but to the movie's credit, like I said, it's not a bad movie. In fact, I would say a lot of the performances in this movie really carry the film over to make it a more than enjoyable film. Is because you have Barbra Streisand and Nick Nolte really working off of each other very well. They're both really giving very solid performances in this. You also have Blythe Danner in here, Kate Nelligan, Melinda Dillon from A Christmas Story. George Carlin's also in this movie. I completely forgot that he was in there. But it is a visually gorgeous looking movie too. I love the cinematography by Stephen Goldblatt, who really creates this nice autumnish type of feel. Like there's a lot of orange tinting in this movie, especially when you look back at the past, and it's really nice imagery to look at. It still holds up to this very day. James Newton Howard does a great job with the score. It's an overall enjoyable movie. Like I said, I wish it did a little bit more so it wouldn't fall into the typical Oscar bait cliches, but excuse me. I lost my train of thought again. But yeah, overall, it's a very enjoyable film. It's a good film. Would I say it's one of the best movies of the year? I personally wouldn't, but I can definitely see why other people would say it would be. But it is an enjoyable movie. If you want to see some of Barbra Streisand's best work as a filmmaker, this is definitely a good movie to check out. So, that's my thoughts on The Prince of Tides. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Madame Bovary. So this is one of many adaptations of Madame Bovary based off of the book by the author Gustave Flaubert, and it stars Isabella Hubbard, who you may have seen in such films as I Heart Huckabees and some other movies as well. That's pretty much all I got for you on this one, because honestly, I haven't seen this movie, and as usual, I can't really comment on it because I don't want to give this movie unfair criticism if I haven't seen it. But it looks nice. I mean, it looks like a movie that would come out. It looks like a decent film. Very nice cinematography, some good acting in the trailer, and yeah. So I wish I had more to say about it, but I really can't comment on it if I haven't seen it. So, but yeah, that's Madame Bovary for you. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and I believe the next movie is. Well, it's not the next movie I thought of, but it is one of the more notable movies from this weekend, and that is Fried Green Tomatoes. Based off the novel by Fannie Flagg, and if you don't know who she is, if you've watched old game shows like The Match Game, you've seen her on there. She's been one of the she's one of the celebrity panelists that you always see on Match Game. You used to see her back then. This is the movie based off of her book that she wrote. And kind of like with The Prince of Tides, there are a lot of Oscar baitish cliched elements in here. I mean, you have two of the last two Oscar winners for Best Actress, Jessica Tandy and Kathy Bates, in here. So, but to the movie's credit, like with The Prince of Tides, their performances kind of make the movie work a lot more than it should. I mean, it's a good film if you want to see two really good actresses working off each other very well. But you know, everything else, it is pretty much kind of like Prince of Tides, where it's like the manipulation of the tear-jerking moments, the emotional moments. But like I said, it's not terrible. I've seen far worse do with this, but it's a movie that I think is just okay. I think what makes it work are the performances by Tandy and Bates, and also you have Mary Louise Parker in here, who's been in a couple movies this weekend in particular, along with Mary Stuart Masterson. You also have Cicely Tyson in here, Chris O'Donnell, Richard Riel from Grounded for Life, a lot of other notable names in here, and like I said, it's not a bad movie per se. It's a movie that is competently well done. It's not a movie that's going to really wow anybody. It's not one of those movies that should be considered Best Picture of the Year. But it is good for what it is. I think it's a very enjoyable film. Definitely check it out if you want to see these this really great cast working off each other. So, that's Fried Green Tomatoes. Now let's go to the next movie that I thought was the next movie on the list, but now it is. It's Grand Canyon. You know, interestingly enough, this was actually advertised as the Big Chill of the 90s because, well, of course, the director of this, Lawrence Kasdan, wrote and directed The Big Chill, and this movie is and I would say that those claims of this being the Big Chill of the 90s are very much there. But honestly, when I really look back at this movie not only was good back then, but this is a movie that still holds up much better to this very day. And I love The Big Chill, and I really love this movie. I was actually pleasantly surprised that this movie still holds up to this very day, because if you really watch this movie, there's so much in this film that really can apply to today's society and how things have gotten worse, but we could still find that little bit of positivity in the world, and it's definitely here in this movie. And it never feels forced. It never feels like it's trying to manipulate you like some of the other movies we've looked at so far, but it feels very real and feels very genuine. It's a very well-made film featuring some of the great performances these actors have ever been involved in. Guys like Danny Glover's in here, Kevin Kline, Steve Martin, Alfre Woodard, Mary Louise Parker, Mary McDonald. Just these great actors working off each other, and it's a wonderfully made film. It's, like I said before, it's a movie that I think holds up a lot better than something like The Big Chill, which I really love, but I really love this movie a whole lot more. This is a very underrated movie that I think a lot of people really need to see nowadays, and really the message of the film really will not get lost in anybody, because this movie, like I said before, it feels right for any time period right now. Right now it's a timeless movie. One day I hope it's not the case because of how the world is, but sadly, because of the way the world is, it is still a timeless movie that you can still look at and still get a lot of encouragement out of. You should definitely check it out. I can't recommend this movie enough. Grand Canyon, very underrated film. Please go out and search for it. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. Definitely check it out. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch. On the one hand, it looks visually impressive, very weird, very surreal, kind of what I kind of like with movies at times. The performances overall are very good, but at the same time, you just come out of this movie feeling disgusted. Like, you feel like you've just seen something unbelievably... You've seen something great, but at the same time, you don't ever want to watch it again. In a way, it kind of reminds me of something like Schindler's List or 12 Years a Slave, these great movies, but you really don't ever want to watch them as many times again because of just the thematic material that's there. That's kind of like this, except really, it's a very confusing movie. It's a very confusing movie that I think what makes it hold up very well are those thematic elements and the surreal visuals that are in this movie and the performances overall, but the rest of the movie itself is just so bizarre, so weird, and so out of control that I've never had the urge to watch this movie again. I watched it one time a couple years ago, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. It's just, it was there, and it's just like, there was a lot I remember from it. It's a weird, bizarre movie. That's the best thing I could say about it. It's weird and bizarre. I think more people will get a kick out of it than I did. I don't really know what to say about it. It's a weird, bizarre movie. That's the best way I can describe it. So, yeah. That's David Lynch's Naked Lunch for you. So, on to the next movie, and that is the National Film Board of Canada's Animation Festival. I tried to look up some information on this, and I couldn't even find what shorts are included on here, but if you ever watched that show, Oh Canada, on Cartoon Network, you pretty much get a good idea of what this is supposed to be. This is like, from what I got on there, it's like a collection of 8 different animated films from Canada, from various directors, and I don't know if any of the ones I'm about to mention here are part of that package, which I doubt that they are, but yeah, Oh Canada, if you don't remember, on Cartoon Network, they just took a bunch of shorts from Canada. Some of the more notable ones that I remember includes The Cat Came Back, which is a really good animated short, and Bob and Margaret, which eventually became a TV series by Comedy Central. You had stuff like Battle Block, Evolution, Every Dog's Guide to Complete Home Safety, Every Dog's Guide to the Playground, Special Delivery, Two Sisters, When the Day Breaks, The Lump, George and Rosemary, The Dingles, Dinner for Two. Just these different shorts. They used to play them on late at night opposite tune heads, and they were very interesting. They were very interesting animated shorts that were very different, very unique, and they were a lot of fun to watch. And like I said, I don't know if any of these are in this particular movie that came out, but I figured why not mention them. So that's pretty much all I can say right now about the National Film Board of Canada's Animation Festival. I think they do these every year, but this is the one that I saw on Box Office Mojo, so I figured I might as well talk about some of those movies there. But other than that, though, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that next movie is Until the End of the World. So the premise of Until the End of the World centers around the turn of the millennium in the shadow of a world-changing catastrophe. You follow a man and woman played by William Hurt and Solveig Dunmartin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right, but they are going around the globe in a plot involving a device that could record visual experiences and visualize dreams. It's a very stylistic movie, but kind of like with Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America, it was heavily cut from the studio. And the version that came out in theaters, I don't think did very well. But unlike Once Upon a Time in America, I don't think the other versions that came out after this did particularly well. They might have. I can't really comment on this one for certain because, again, it's another one of those ones where I haven't really seen it, so I can't really comment on it. It's got a good cast overall, besides Hurt, Don Martin, Sam Neill's in this, Max von Sydow, Jeannie Moreau. And like I said, it has a nice visual flair to it, so there is at least that. But yeah, I can't really say too much about this. Like I said, I can't really say too much about it. So I mean, it could be good, but I can't really say anything because I haven't seen it. So that's Until the End of the World. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The Inner Circle. A lot of things make this movie very interesting, particularly that 4 weeks prior to this, the KGB folded and the Cold War ended. So I don't know if it was perfect timing or what, but yeah, it's interesting that this movie came out around that time. You also have a very interesting cast here. Tom Hulce, Lolita Davidovich, Bob Hoskins, director Andrei Konchalovsky, who had done Tango and Cash beforehand, and of course that movie had a lot of production problems to it, so he went back home to his home country in Russia, and it looks like a pretty interesting movie. A movie that, like I said before, it's interesting that this was made and then this was made, and then all of a sudden, as it was coming out, the KGB folded, and so and the Cold War had come to an end, and you have this movie that's shot entirely in Russia, and it looks like a very interesting movie. It's one that I'm actually kind of curious to check out and see if it's any good. So yeah, definitely looks like something I might be interested in seeing. So that's The Inner Circle. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is Hear My Song. So this is the first movie directed by Peter Kelsom, who would later go on to direct such films as The Mighty, Town and Country, Serendipity, Shall We Dance. He also did the Hannah Montana movie, The Space Between Us, Berlin, I Love You, Hector, The Search for Happiness. Just a slew of mixed bag movies there. And I mean, this one kind of again, this is another one I can't really comment on it too much, but doesn't look too bad. I mean, it has a decent cast to it, with Ned Beatty in there, along with Adrian Dunbar, Tara Fitzgerald, David McCallum. So, doesn't really have a whole lot there that would make it stand out over other movies similar to this, but it doesn't look terrible, and it might be something that one day I might definitely check out, but it's not something I'm really ready to rush out for. So that's pretty much all I gotta say about Hear My Song. And just like that, we are now officially done with 1991. And now we're going to jump into 1992 the next time we meet. And I have one movie for next week, but you know what? Considering that there's movies coming out after that, I'm going to make this next one a 1991 Leftovers episode. And unlike past years, there's not that many. So in total, we're going to look at 5 different movies. We have Grover Dangerfield. We also have Ricky O, The Story of Ricky, Ski School, Too Much Sun, and then we have the lone 1992 movie that opens up the new year, Blood Fist 3: Forced to Fight. So yeah, we'll definitely have some fun the next time around, at least with a couple of movies on there. But other than that, though, thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist of all the episodes from 1991, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow as we start a brand new year off. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.